What is most important about art and the goal of the art is to pursue a beauty and truth. And truth is in beauty and beauty is in truth. So artist always searches for discovery of beauty.
Rembrandt van Rijn was able to find truth in beauty, evident from his many portraits of himself and others. By observing the evolution of his artistic styles and how they become rougher and darker with age, we begin to see that his seemingly triumphant life was, through the fortune and fame, marred by tragedy. His life demonstrates the various aspects of triumph and tragedy through his perseverance past both material and mental struggles. Yet, in the end, he prevailed over these challenges to forge a legacy that highlights the importance of dedication and creating new artistic paths for oneself. Rembrandt was effortlessly able to explore and capture the depths of humanity in his paintings, unabashedly showing the realities of aging. He dissected his subjects, building layer upon layer of emotion and feeling into his painting until it came alive and showed even the deepest imperfections of his subjects. At the time, Holland was in the Dutch Golden Age, which promoted secularism and celebration of human life. Artists would capture momentum, in a way capturing the joy and simple life of their subject. While they painted scenes of fun, parties, and pleasures, Rembrandt's subject matters quickly became the focus of many critics because he focused on drama and emotion instead.
The Dutch masters focused on delights of a daily life, often daily life. Rembrandt emerged in that background, but he took it much farther and he focused on depth of the character, depth of a character or human being, a human drama.
However, he didn't always have the style he is known for. Instead, it was a series of unforgiving events that ultimately led to his rebirth of his artistic individuality. From an early age, Rembrandt began to develop his painting skills. For many years, he studied under master painters, developing a technique of chiaroscuro which dramatized the lights and shadows he used, and crucially influenced his later work. As Rembrandt advanced, he quickly exceeded his teachers in skill. His name became acclaimed throughout Holland, and after establishing a large studio in Amsterdam, attracted many pupils of his own. They emulated his styles, although many of them, such as Gerrit Dou, as seen in this self-portrait, became increasingly popular by practicing standard art styles, of including very fine details and vibrant colors. Rembrandt, however, continued to stray from those standards, and developed his famous techniques through his numerous self-portraits during his time in Leiden, in which viewers can, even today, see the physical and mental changes he went through. In one of his first self-portraits, Rembrandt paints himself whimsically, smiling and tilting his head back in a relaxed state. The touches of bright pink on his cheeks and forehead imply that he is still a boy, untouched by the hardships of life. He added these flares to emphasize his youth in a light-hearted sense, but his posture and delight showed that he had not yet gained a deep understanding of how to steady himself and others. After continuing to hone his skills and receiving hundreds of commissions, Rembrandt reached the peak of his art career in the mid-1630s. This portrait is one of the last, before he begins to dive deeper into focusing his art on subjects that were more private and personal. In here, Rembrandt still executes his strokes smoothly and keeps his lines pristine. And although hints of his own styles are beginning to emerge, he has still not fully developed them. The change between this and his next known portrait are incredibly evident, as he goes beyond merely showing outward likeness, but inner likeness as well. And although it was a tragedy that brought this evolution, in some ways Rembrandt had already triumphed over the obstacle that many other artists of his time could not. The event that brought this change was the death of his beloved wife Saskia van Eulenburg. He married her in a small church in Amsterdam, and she quickly became his muse. Her death sent him on a downward spiral, and following it, Rembrandt fell into a period of grief. For over 7 years, he didn't produce a single oil painting. He went bankrupt and eventually was forced to sell his art and even the clothes off his back. Though these misfortunes led Rembrandt to a life of outcast and burden, they also increased his artistry. The eye-opening experience of living in poverty allowed him to live life in the shoes of the common people. Instead of being above them, he became one of them. This attributed to his painting The Night Watch, arguably the turning point in Rembrandt's art career. It was an experiment of light and shadow. His rendering of space and shadow were unseen before, and his composition daring. In fact, in the lower left corner, he emphasizes a very unusual figure, a girl with a chicken hanging from her belt. However, historians believe that she was not actually a real person, but rather a symbol for the company he was painting. Though his use of symbolism and deep studies of the company and its members went unappreciated, it was too different for the patrons to admire, and this painting became an absurd mistake to them. This mark on his reputation did not hinder his creativity, though, as he grew increasingly diverse in his paintings later on.
It seems that he showed us how he looked. That he wasn't afraid of depicting himself with wrinkles and graying hair and a little bit of balding. He was not classically handsome, and he didn't shy away from showing us that. And there are, if you look at him, he grows old. He grows old, and he presents that for us to take what we will.
In the last years of his life, Rembrandt produced dozens of self-portraits, arguably the most well-known because they were not only works of art, but psychological studies as well. Rembrandt showed that he was no longer afraid of depicting what he truly looked like. In this portrait, he stares unflinchingly at the viewer, having lived a life of success followed by failure. He doesn't falter to show the heavy wrinkles between his eyebrows and the discolorations on his cheeks. In fact, he purposefully includes those to show that this was him in his purest form, and that he was proud. His eyes are steady, and yet there is a hint of genuine sadness, which he achieves only by truly accepting and studying himself. But with the rich pinks and other flesh tones in his face once again, Rembrandt seemed to be in an improved state of mind. He may have even been emulating a painting by Raphael, a famous classical painter he admired, thereby aligning himself with him and casting himself also as an esteemed painter. It is important to remember that Rembrandt's life is what made him the great artist he was. He did not try to escape the destitutions of life like many others, because he understood that true artistry can only be achieved through perseverance and dedication. Although this led him to die an underappreciated bankrupt artist, that genuineness ultimately set him apart from the hundreds of other artists in history, allowing him to see the beauty in truth and spread it across his works, influencing hundreds of famed artists after him. He teaches us through his self-portraits how to look at him and even how to look at ourselves, with honesty and dignity. And by doing so, he has changed the entire ethical approach to art and portraiture. Rembrandt's self-portraits achieve something far greater than being works of art. They show us the things that happen throughout a lifetime, and makes it possible for us to see reflections of ourselves in his self-portraits. Rembrandt and his reminder that it takes willpower to overcome tragedy and dedication to reach triumph will continue to live on in the hearts and minds of the people who have seen his work for now and forever.